Greetings and salutations, guys. I'm here to share my thoughts on Universal Horror Unleashed, which just opened in Las Vegas. I am a massive fan of Halloween Horror Nights every year at both Universal Orlando and in Hollywood. I go to both every year. I go multiple times every year. I think it's just a super fun event. So I was very excited to get this year-round attraction in Vegas that is clearly modeled after Horror Nights. And I really enjoy what's there. It has some issues, I think, but I think that mostly it really delivers what I would want, what I'd expect from something like this that is offering kind of a mini Horror Nights experience. Now, I have seen the very sort of divisive, polarizing reaction that it has gotten since it's opened in the past few days. And some people seem to really not be digging it. There's a lot of talk about, is it worth the price, which I think is going to come up with anything like this. I see some of the issues, but some of them I think, I don't know, it's a different perspective. It's like, what do you want from this? And how much do you want to just sort of, get in and out? This comes up with theme parks a lot too, which is that conversation about how many rides are there and how quickly could I do all the rides? And if I can do all the rides in a few hours, then it's not a great place versus my perspective, which is that if they can offer you a really interesting experience, if you can find sort of the nuance in it, the things that are kind of in the corners that really make it entertaining, to me that can be very fulfilling. And one thing I really dig about Universal Horror Unleashed, the thing I dig the most about it actually, is the character interactions. They have a lot of wandering characters, original characters that walk around, and you can talk to them and you can get to know their story. And I just thought these performers were really, really good. I want to circle back to them, though, and talk about the houses because, yeah, that is going to be the main draw for a lot of people. And I totally get it because it's the main draw for Horror Nights, too, as far as what do they have to offer? What are these houses based on? And do they offer a cool experience inside each of them? I should also make sure to mention that I went to one of the media events for this, which means that A, didn't have to pay for it, and B, certainly less people than you would normally get inside there. And also there was no restrictions on how many times I could go into these houses. There was no lines for them. I also went into one other sort of early night event that was right after that was a little more of what an actual night at the place would be because it was ticketed. We could only go into each house one time. There were lines for the houses. So I got to see that side of it too, but mostly I was at the media event night. And yeah, that's going to be a skewed perspective. So I have to keep that in mind, and I want you to keep that in mind. The houses are decent. I don't think they're amazing. I don't think they're super scary. The one correlation I can make, and this is only going to apply to people who saw it, was when Universal Hollywood had the Walking Dead attraction, a year-round attraction that was obviously based on kind of a Horror Nights type experience. And the way that was built and the permanence of that, and the fact that it didn't feel quite as ramshackle as some of the Horror Nights houses can, which are only going to exist for a couple months. And so you could feel that this place was built differently, and that applies here at Horror Unleashed, where it's a little wider. The corridors that you're walking down feels a little more brightly lit, and yeah, it feels more structurally sound, which on one hand is impressive, but on the other hand, I think does sort of take away some of the creepiness, certainly in some of these experiences, because it doesn't feel like quite as dangerous. And I got some good jump scares here and there, but overall, I didn't find this to be as scary as some of the houses at Horror Nights can be. And it's funny because all four of these houses are things that they've done versions of at Horror Nights, starting with Scarecrow the Reaping, which is a completely original concept, but one that was first done at Horror Nights. So I've experienced that in Hollywood, and I thought it was scarier in Hollywood, although there are touches they did at this one that were really clever, such as walking through sort of this corn that's hanging down, and so you kind of get to really feel like you're pushing through a field in a way that they probably couldn't do, and certainly couldn't do as easily at Horror Nights in Hollywood. And I think that goes for a lot of them, where they add these little touches that I thought, hey, that's cool, that's clever. Then you've got the house that is kind of the funniest as far as its presence here at all, which is The Exorcist Believer, which Yeah, when they're planning these things years out, they don't know how something is going to land. And I'm sure at the time the hope was Exorcist Believer was going to be a big hit and would have spawned sequels by this point. We know that's not what happened, that we're getting a completely new reboot again of Exorcist. I can't wait to see that. Mike Flanagan, come on. But Believer, a movie that I actually didn't even think was that bad, but certainly did not have any sort of pop culture imprint. So it is funny to have it a specific house for that iteration of Exorcist versus the original, which is timeless. But I remember how much I loved the Exorcist house at both Horror Nights on both coasts. This version is very similar as far as layout and what's happening. Not as scary, but again, there are some cool set pieces. What I almost always like at Horror Nights, whether or not I find the house is scary, is the level of production design that Universal can put into it, the detail that you can feel, the work that went into it. And I think that's the case here too. I went through this one a couple times and I did get some better scares the second time. And that's always going to be the case as far as you never know the timing, if someone's going to get you at the right time when you walk through it once versus another time. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is specifically based on the original film, is something that they've done a million times at Horror Nights on both coasts. They've done many Texas Chainsaw houses. They've revisited the first film many times. So this is familiar sights and sets. If you've gone through those in the past, it always works, by the way. I mean, Texas Chainsaw lends itself to a sort of haunted house scenario like few other movies. And you watch that movie and it feels like it was tailor-made for that, even before that was a big thing. It's still effective here, although I do wish the floors weren't so sort of shiny in this entire place, and especially in Texas Chainsaw. Those should feel like dirtier, stickier, grosser floors, because that house, that's not a clean house. But it looks great. The performers are great. I really dig how they have the entire family represented, and they've got multiple appearances from the cook and the hitchhiker and grandpa, and they all play the roles. But I also really like, here's the thing that they do that I hadn't seen a lot before at other Horror Nights. Sally is a scare actor a couple of times, so I really like when they can involve the other characters besides the people that are the killers. And so I really like how they have Sally and that they have the sort of concluding moment play out in front of you from the movie. And then I really dig when you're walking in, they have a scare actor who plays a victim. This is something that I've almost never seen done in this way. I thought this woman was part of the media or an influencer who had wandered onto the porch in a place that she probably wasn't supposed to the first time I walked through. So I thought it was great when I realized, oh no, she's part of the show and she's there to be grabbed by Leatherface. So I really appreciate when they can do stuff like that, and that in a place like this with the larger sets, which again aren't always, the best for making things creepy, but they can give you a set piece in a different way. But my favorite house by far is Universal Monsters. I think this one just manages to go for that level of immersion. Cliche word when describing anything theme park related or theme park adjacent in this case, but immersion, it still does qualify here. And I think that this one, as far as going through all these different scenarios, bringing you through all the different Universal monsters and sort of their individual stories, they get their own rooms, their own set pieces. It looks great. I had the best time in this house of all of them. This is the one that I was most excited to go through again. And again, they had a special moment, the kind of which you rarely get at Horror Nights, which is when Dr. Frankenstein stops you, has you stop in place to show off his monster. Usually it's all about pushing you through at the Horror Nights houses. At Horror Unleashed, they have this moment where they actually want you to stop and sort of watch this moment play out. And that was really great. And I love getting to see that happen. We had a lot of fun sort of cheering on the birth of the creature in front of us. So yeah, I wouldn't call any of these, the best houses I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of Horror Nights houses, but they're all, cool to look at. It's just the scare factor, I think, that can vary wildly. And none of them, I think, are amongst the most scary I've experienced. I do think that Texas Chainsaw has a lot of cool things to look at, and I really dig Universal Monsters. I just think that is just a really great creation and kind of makes the most out of the space that they have there. But I enjoyed all four of the houses. I again, this is me personally, when I go through a Horror Nights house and I'm not scared, at least there's cool things to look at. And I thought that they all delivered on that, but mileage will vary. I've seen some people say online that if there's not a line, they can, do everything in under an hour. So then it's really a waste for them. And this is where I have a very different feeling on it, because I don't go in there to just go through all the houses, be done, and leave. I want to experience it all. And yes, so of course there are places to eat, and there is merchandise to buy. Shocking. I think that the main sort of sit-down restaurant, which is called Premier House, I don't think the ambiance is great in there. I think it's clearly designed to be able to change up what's being presented. So right now it's all Blumhouse, and there's giant signage for Blumhouse, and there are photo ops with Megan. I didn't actually see Megan in person as a character, but I've heard she does pop up there. And for the Black Phone, and for the Purge, and there was Five Nights at Freddy's 2 sort of advertisement going on there. That looks like it could all be changed. If they didn't want that to be a Blumhouse section, it could be changed to something else. And I get that they want that ability to change it up, in a year or two if needed. But it's a little too brightly lit. We're at a horror-based attraction, so even though I understand this restaurant area, maybe they want to have it be a little bit brighter than the rest of it, I still thought it was just felt like we were walking into a different space altogether. I think they need to add more ambiance to that section. Dim those lights, guys. Dim those lights. I'm not going to go too into the food. I never feel like I'm great on the food review side of things, but I'll say I really did like the tacos in this place, and I thought that they were pretty damn delicious. Did not get food from Rough Cuts, which is the walk-up sort of barbecue chainsaw themed food area, though I did like the look of it. There are multiple bars, and I love the visual of the boiler at the center. It is just, this very impressive looking thing in the center when you walk in. And it has a little bit of effects that come off it here and there. Premier House has its own bar at the back. And then there's Jack's Alley Bar, which is all centered around Jack the Clown. Now, if you know Horror Nights Orlando, you know Jack the Clown, and you know Chance very well. I love these characters. Yes, Chance is pretty shamelessly taken from Harley Quinn, but I still get a kick out of them. I have a lot of Jack and Chance art on my walls out in the hallways, and so I love that they are here. I love that more people are going to get to know Jack and Chance here. They have a little stage show they do periodically, and I think it's very enjoyable. It is cheesy, but a lot of these shows that happen at Horror Nights are cheesy, and that's kind of part of the charm. This one is sort of this supposed dance competition using real dancers that are supposed to have been plucked from the crowd, but then some real people from the crowd get to sort of judge them and what their fate will be. The incorporation of the dance stuff is funny because it feels very Vegas, but it also feels very Horror Nights, where there is often these sort of wacky shows that go on, the shows that you can sort of take a break and sit down and watch. Going back years, they've had different iterations of these shows, but I thought it fit in well here, and I do like that we get this spotlight on Jack and Chance as, notable characters. They don't have their own house, although they'd be great if maybe they did get one at one point, but they do get to kind of be stars of the show quite literally. There's also another little touch of Vegas via this sexy vampire girl that we saw dancing, but also evokes classic Horror Nights, which used to have a lot more of sexy girls dancing with fire around them when you walked in. They've kind of scaled back on that in the past few years, but feels very Vegas that she would be there at all. I believe she does have a male counterpart, but really the thing I could spend hours doing at Horror Unleashed, or at least a solid 90 minutes, is talking to those characters. This was the thing I enjoyed the most. This is what I thought was, the best part of the whole thing, because whether it be Lonnie, who was the vampire familiar, the Renfield-esque guy, desperate to be turned into a vampire, or Piper and Bucket, who are a sister and brother, who informed me that she informed me, Bucket doesn't do much talking, but Piper informed me that they had decapitated their parents.
You ever had something in your life that just needed removing?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Our folks had something like that. What was it again, brother? Oh, right, their heads. They didn't use them?
These performers were so good. I thought that they were just so all in. They clearly had been sort of trained and prepped to really have not only a lot of backstory, but really be ready to improv and kind of go with the flow of what you're saying to them. They don't all speak, because some of these characters don't, but the ones who do, man, they're a blast. There's the serial killer in kind of the ski mask. He's just kind of a normal Joe.
He took his wife to Ross for his anniversary. It's like, Ross? It's like, yeah, everything was half off. It's like, Doug, you kidding. This joke's have legs, that's for sure.
I thought he was great. The surgeon, the sort of insane surgeon who's holding various body parts, but depending on when you go up to her. There is also a mad scientist called the Doctor, and she has her creature she's created, who's kind of this classic 1950s sort of bug monster. I just thought there's a lot of imagination that went into this, and I thought that the fact that they were so interactive, this is the stuff I get a kick out of in these experiences. But this is something where some people hate this stuff, or it's just not for them, right? They're like, I don't want to talk to some stranger who's pretending to be some character. So if that's your mindset, then maybe this is not for you, because, tickets are $69. If the tickets were $50, I think that would probably be a lot better and a lot more reasonable, given the fact that if you look at Horror Nights itself and what the tickets are for Halloween Horror Nights, they are $77, the first lowest price point at Hollywood, and they're $86 at Orlando. That one's a little bit more of a jump, but $69 versus $77, yeah, you get a lot more at Horror Nights in Los Angeles for $77, so it feels like just for a few dollars more, that's a lot more value than what they're charging here. Maybe for $50, knowing you're still going to probably spend money on food and drinks, and yes, that stuff's all going to be overpriced, because that's kind of how it goes, not only in Vegas, but especially when you have these big companies involved like Universal. You're going to spend money on that. You might spend money on merch. So I think $50 would be more reasonable to ask you to go in here. But if it were that, and even at the $69 for me personally, and no, I didn't pay this first time, but I would pay to go back, I think it's worth it, because as someone who is all in experiences like this, I think that it offers enough, and especially the fact that these characters are, ones that you can interact with to such a great extent.
I'm Casey. Hi, Casey. I'm Eric.
Oh, don't get too attached.
Oh, okay.
And will really kind of go with you on sort of taking you on that journey and taking you down the road of what they're all about. I think that is totally worth it. But again, there are the people who just want to go in, do the houses, and leave. And for them, maybe it's not, because it's only 4 houses, and if there's not it's weird to say if there's not long lines, because no one wants long lines. But if there's not, yeah, you could knock this all out in an hour. For me, I think you can get a solid, at least 3 hours out of this, depending on what you're doing. If you're going to sit and eat, sit and have drinks at one of the bars, and certainly walk around and look at everything that there is to see. There's props from old Horror Nights houses, which are really cool. And then there's just the different things going on with the characters all around you. I just thought there was a lot of characters. This is not a giant space. It's, impressive looking, but it's not ultimately the biggest space in the world. But that's why I thought it was really cool how many characters there were, and that you could walk around and keep seeing them cycle through. I also want to mention, though, that the houses do open and close a lot. And at first I couldn't figure out why. I was like, is this because it's the media event and they're filming in there? And then I realized it's probably because they only have one cast. At Horror Nights, they have 2 casts, and they can, have them, when they're going on break, one group, the other group comes in. I'm guessing for this, they don't. People need to be put on break. They should absolutely be put on break, especially given how much work it is to keep repeating these same actions over and over and over again. But I do think they need proper signage up. They need signage up to tell you about wait times, and probably an interactive app in 2025. What the wait time currently is, and if something's down and when it'll be reopened, because it happens a lot. And it happened to us that day, and my friends and I, that, we'd go over, try to do Texas Chainsaw. They'd be like, it'll be back open in about 20 minutes. I think they need to definitely be more open about that. So these people would always give you answers at the, entrances to the houses, but that information should be sort of more easy to find out quickly, in both on a screen or on an app, because it does happen a lot. That's actually probably one of the biggest things I hope that they do integrate in the near future. Merch-wise, I'm not going to go too deep into it. That's, stuff you can guess what you can get, because there's a lot of t-shirts and, magnets and pins that are based off the certain IP they have there, and some they don't. There's actually a considerable amount of Psycho and Chucky stuff, which are two Universal-owned properties that are not actually part of Horror Unleashed, but it'd be cool if they were. My big complaint, though, I'm going to say on the merch front, it's a very specific one, is why is there not a black t-shirt with the damn Horror Unleashed logo? They have a gray tank top, and they have an off-white Spirit jersey, but I didn't want that. I wanted a black t-shirt. And it'd be great if it had a cool, art on it, but if it would just have the logo, I probably would have gotten it, but they didn't have it. What's up with that? Black t-shirts. Come on. A lot of us want black t-shirts. Also, they had a Jack the Clown shirt that looked really fun, but was only for women. So I didn't buy a shirt there. I'm a shirt buyer. I usually buy a shirt. So guys, you gotta add to the shirts there for the Horror Unleashed specific ones, because I'd be wearing one if I could get one that called out to me, but it didn't. But yeah, overall, I really liked Horror Unleashed. It's brand new, and so, you can feel like, of course, there's going to be these kinks to work out and figure things out. But I've seen some of the really negative reactions, and that wasn't my experience. And as much as, yes, I did get a nicer sort of experience on the media event, and I don't want to act like that's nothing, I also think that the specific, nature of what they offer there will have to do with what you want to get out of it and how much time you want to spend in a place like this. And the fact that you can just wander around is a benefit, for me, that you don't have to just, rush through and leave. But other people want it to be about give me a specific experience and that's it. And then I can go. And so maybe this is not going to be for them because it is, it doesn't offer that. It doesn't offer hours of houses to go to. It offers 4 houses, and the basic ticket only gets you into each house once. And then, of course, you have to pay more if you want to do multiple times. So, but I'll be back. I'll be going back there. I like that this is, it's like a 4-hour drive if I want to drive there, but close-ish enough that I have some place to get my Horror Nights fix all year. That is not too far away. It'll be interesting to see what happens as they're sort of franchising this thing. They've already announced a Chicago location, and I'm curious how similar or different it will be. Certainly how similar or different the houses inside will be, because there's obviously a lot of different places you can go. And will these houses even stay the same here, or could they be changed up to different titles? I mean, man, Exorcist, again, Believer being the one that they're doing of all movies is pretty funny, but it is what it is. All right, so those are my thoughts on Universal Horror Unleashed, now open in Vegas. Thanks if you can like and can subscribe. That would be wonderful. I'll be back with more, talking about other stuff, including some Horror Night stuff in the near future.